So, Michael, Jennifer Lopez has married Ben Affleck.
Really? Oh wow. I mean, good job, him. Maybe not. I don't know. I mean, I feel like Ben Affleck is still in like the looking sad and miserable all the time stage. But
No,
maybe that would.
no, he's great. He's so happy. But also, more importantly, people may be wondering why our To Kill a Mockingbird review was delayed by several days, and it's because YouTube, for some reason, thought there was something controversial about our review, and I assume it's because there was a lot of the words. Well, there was words flung about like racism,
Yeah,
and
like the N word quite a lot.
the N word was said so many times. But yeah, so I was trying to edit the video a bit, and the YouTube just it took like 36 hours to process because of that. So yeah, YouTube clearly, if you ever wanted to do a review of To Kill a Mockingbird, you're gonna have to make sure it's PG. You don't say anything controversial like racism might be bad.
No, yeah, that's definitely true. And I would like it for the record, just everybody take our words for it that we definitely did say racism was bad in the To Kill a Mockingbird review. I swear we weren't talking about how racism is good, actually. There we go. I just wanted to make it clear that, so there'd be no suspicion. Good news is now we're going to talk about somebody who wasn't controversial at all for what he said about this.
Yeah. We'll have no issues with this video, will we?
Hello and welcome to Select and Reflect, the movie review podcast where we look at films that have come out in the near and distant past, we give them a couple of watches and evaluate them beyond first impressions. I'm your host Michael and I'm joined as always by my co-host Luke, and this week we are celebrating the 30th anniversary of the release of the film Malcolm X. So Luke, why don't you tell us a thing or two about the film Malcolm X?
Yeah, sure, Michael. And we are also doing it because of the upcoming movie Nope by Jordan Peele. And
okay.
What has Nope got to do with Malcolm X?
Is it that they both involve like race?
They both involve black people.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Because I mean, is Jordan Peterson? Is this like another film?
Jordan Peele.
Like horror? Sorry, Jordan Peterson. I would like to see his films. Jordan Peele. Is this going to be another like horrific thriller that's also social commentary?
You know what? Probably.
Yeah. Why didn't he try doing something new? Why doesn't he just make a kind of brainless, mindless horror film for once? Dickhead.
I know, but yeah. I mean, look, we were gonna do Malcolm X around this time anyway. We might as well guess Nope. I am aware that maybe it is a bit racist just because they're completely different movies to be like, oh, one black,
Wait, let's not forget the fact that the original plan was to do Malcolm X to coincide with the release of the film Black Adam.
Yes.
Which, is Dwayne The Rock Johnson even black?
No, he's Polynesian.
Exactly. So yeah, literally just because the word black was in the name.
Black Adam, Malcolm X. Yeah. So again, actually, it's got better. The situation has improved.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So again, we're making progress here at Select and Reflect. But anyway, Michael. So yeah, if you can't tell, my voice isn't the best.
Yeah, you know what? Actually, see, the funny thing is, since I've been talking to you, I feel like my throat has been hurting a bit. So I think I must be getting it must be contagious just across the airwaves.
It's contagious. Anyway, so Malcolm X, sometimes stylized as X, that this is the movie, not him himself.
Yeah, the return of Xander Cage.
Yeah, is a 1992 American epic biographical drama film about the African-American activist Malcolm X. Directed by Spike Lee. The screenplay was by Arnold Pearl and Spike Lee, and it is based on the autobiography of Malcolm X by Malcolm X, which is...
what autobiography means.
Yes, which is... but the thing is, it says underneath it Alex Haley as well.
Is it like one of those kind of like things where, he interviews you and you kind of, yeah, okay, I can imagine that.
Probably.
You need some help.
I'm guessing...
all, Malcolm X wasn't very good with words.
Yeah, I'm guessing that was the case. So the movie stars Denzel Washington, Angela Bassett, Albert Hall, Al Freeman Jr., Delroy Lindo, and Spike Lee. So
what a narcissist.
Yeah, that's the thing. Of course, he appeared in his beloved movie, which
Do the Right Thing.
Do the Right Thing.
I was also about to say "Call Me by Your Name" for a second.
No, because all I can think of with that is that the thing about that movie is like everyone's hot, so the tension's rising.
Literally, I was thinking about that too. Like, I was like, oh my god, yeah.
And of course, we're recording on a day where it is literally 36 degrees Celsius in the
Yes.
United Kingdom, like 100 degrees Fahrenheit, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is well up.
Good thing we're not in Brooklyn.
Yeah, good thing we're not in Brooklyn. Anyway, so the release date was November the 18th, 1992. Again, so we're a bit off the 30-year anniversary, but again, because of the movie Nope coming out, we just had to do it, this week. And the budget, Michael, can you guess the budget for Malcolm X?
No. Well, it's quite a long film, and of course everyone knows that films charge by the hour to be made. No. I mean, obviously Denzel Washington is in it, and I know he's a big movie star now. I don't know to what extent. I assume he was a bit of a, I don't know that he was like the biggest movie star in the world in 1992 because I don't really know what films he'd done before then.
He was known.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think this film could cost like that much money. 10 million, 15 million.
Yeah, I knew you'd go under.
Yeah.
You went less than half. The budget is 35 million.
I was going to go for 20 million, but
it looked like a really, well done film in terms of the budget. Like, it looked like it had a high production value. So I'm I'm not really surprised with you. But it was not 15 million, it was 35 million. I reckon
I could get it done for 15 million.
Yeah, but here's the thing, Michael. Interestingly, so initially, I think the movie had a budget of 28 million, but Lee made it climb to 33 million, and then he contributed 2 million of his 3 million salary to get it done. Also, obviously, it's a very long movie. The length was also an issue. So Warner Brothers thought it would be an issue, it's like, and they didn't want the movie to be more than 2 hours and 15 minutes in length, which is funny because it's like an hour longer.
Yes.
And so the resulting conflict caused the project to be shut down in post-production. But the film was then saved. Who saved this film, Michael?
In the edit?
No. In terms of getting the production starting up again.
Oh, okay. I mean, it's got to be some kind of vaguely interesting answer.
Yeah.
But
I'll tell you if you don't know.
I don't know.
No. The financial intervention of prominent black Americans, some of whom appear in the film. The first one is Bill Cosby. Not a great start. But Oprah Winfrey, Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson, Janet Jackson, Prince, Tracy Chapman, and Peggy Cooper. They save the film, and Spike Lee, says, hey, these guys, without these guys, I wouldn't be able to do the film I wanted. I would have been able to make it 3 hours and basically cover all of Malcolm X's life in the way he clearly wanted to. So yeah, just thought I'd give you a bit of background on the budget there.
No, thank you. I really appreciate that information. I could sure use it. Maybe now I finally understand how much films cost and will never guess wrong again.
Yeah, so interestingly, the dissatisfaction Warner Brothers had for how Lee funded the film by completing it through the help of his African-American friends later resulted in Warner Brothers blocking out Lee from participating in the development of what movie, Michael?
Batman Returns.
Featuring one of the names mentioned.
Oh, goodness me. You mentioned you mentioned Bill Cosby, but has he been in any film?
No, it wasn't.
I know it was in a film called Ghost Dad. Magic Johnson?
No.
Oh, Space Jam?
Yes, Space Jam. There you go.
Because, that makes sense, because Warner Brothers obviously had Looney Tunes in it, yeah.
Yes, so he couldn't direct Space Jam because of Malcolm X.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, there you go. That's a fun fact. So, Michael, can you now guess the box office for Malcolm X?
No, not really. I mean, the thing is, the fact that he was blocked out of production makes me think maybe it wasn't a huge success, because it kind of seems like, I mean, my brain's saying if it was a huge success, they would have been more enthused by him, I guess. And also, I don't know, I don't really know of this film being a massive success. I mean, it still probably made some money back. Maybe it made 110 million.
Because the correct answer is 73 million.
Okay, that's not bad.
Yeah, so the movie probably barely made its money back. For Warner Brothers, at least it probably did. But yeah, so not the most successful movie ever, but of course we are covering it because it was, in some people's eyes, the best movie of 1992. Roger Ebert said that it was his favourite movie of 1992.
What does he know, though?
Yeah, I know. And it also was selected for preservation in the US National Film Registry by the Library of Congress. So that happened in 2010, just as Obama became president.
Suspicious.
Yeah. So, Michael, did you like Malcolm X, the movie?
Yeah. Yes, I did. it does kind of, I mean, as like a biopic, I think you can always argue that when you have a biopic that's literally just a chronological retelling of somebody's life, it it's not necessarily the most creative way, I guess, of doing a biopic. And that, I guess, because basically just like, oh, you just took what happened in his life and then wrote it into a script and filmed it, which, obviously. But having said that, I mean, one, it's an interesting life and obviously an interesting person, so that's in its favor. And two, I mean, it's not horrendously cliche or like incompetently made. So yes, I did like it. Yeah, I don't think it was like this, yeah, I didn't think it was the best film ever, but I liked it. And I think as far as biopics go, I would say yes, well done, good biopic.
Yeah, I think, it is just basically his life. I mean, of course, it's based on his autobiography. And Spike Lee, of course, clearly, has some affection for Malcolm X.
Yeah, I feel like the death scene can't have really been based on his autobiography,
This movie is really helped by the fact that Malcolm X's life, like you say, it was very interesting. But it is literally like the life of a perfect character from a movie. How he starts off his life, then, his fall, and then how he builds himself back up. And then you have, he becomes the star, then he has issues again, and then he rebuilds himself and completes his character arc, and he, becomes a better person at the end. And then, of course, he's tragically killed. So, it is literally like his life is perfect for a movie. So, that's what Spike Lee did. And clearly he was like, if I want to, put all of his life on screen to really, get a sense of this guy and how he lived, and his full character arc, I need it to be 3 hours long because there's so much stuff to cram in because it's such an interesting life. And I think this movie would have probably been worse if it had only been 2 hours and 15 minutes long.
I it's hard to imagine like anything you could cut that wouldn't take away from the film.
You could cut some of the start.
Yeah, actually that's true. You could cut some of it. Maybe you could drop a little bit, but I think definitely 2 hours and 15 would have been too short.
That dancing scene went on for so long at the start. And
that's true, actually. Yeah.
I was like, that could have been cut, but what? It wouldn't have made that big a difference.
Yeah, I don't remember how long it is until he starts actually becoming a gangster. But that happens quite late into the film, in like 40 minutes or so.
I'm fine with him getting to know him at the start. Again, I think that again it serves the movie because if it's just a character, I look at this character, then you spend more time with him in his life, then it should enhance the movie. And it does. So anyway, Michael, how many nitpicks do you have?
I have 2 nitpicks. I know you like to say you can't nitpick someone's life, but you know what? I still have.
Okay, I've got 2 nitpicks, so you go first.
Okay, so my first nitpick is I want to know what he thinks you should call black people because he keeps saying so-called Negro. But the thing is, Negro is the only word he seems to use for black people. So I'm like, what does he think they should be called? That was my thought. Because it's like there was one point where he said it literally like he was giving a speech.
I think he says black people.
Does he say? Yeah, maybe I was just not paying attention every time he said.
Yeah, I think you weren't paying attention.
Yeah, probably not. Anyway, now speaking of not paying attention, here's one which I'm pretty sure is true, but also I only noticed it on my second watch. But I'm pretty sure when he's talking to his wife when he's in the hotel, like hiding from the Nation of Islam, his daughter is crying quite loudly on his wife's side of the phone, and then he's like, how are the kids? And then like it cuts to the wife again, and the daughter is no longer crying; she's silent, but she's like, "Oh, they're asleep," and it's almost like it was just a bit weird because it's like, you could hear the baby crying in the background, but then like the baby just stopped crying.
So my first lit pick is Elijah Muhammad says, half your age plus 7. That's the rule for like marrying someone or something.
Yes.
So wait, that rule that I heard, that comes from Elijah Muhammad.
Yeah, I did notice that, and I have no. I mean, I might actually look it up because I'm interested.
Did you find it, Michael?
Yes, Luke. I did some boning up, and I found 2 things. One is that actually it does precede Elijah Muhammad. It says here that the rule was first found in a book on romance by a French author, Léon Bluet, in his 1901 love manual, with the incredibly romantic title, Her Royal Highness Woman and His Majesty Cupid. Anyway, I don't want to read the rest of it, but basically. So there you go. That was the first use of it in this French guy's love manual. I also found out, by the way, that Elijah Muhammad, this wasn't, I don't know if this was stated in the film, but obviously nowadays the half your age plus 7 thing is like the minimum acceptable kind of age. Whereas Elijah Muhammad believed it was like the ideal age. So there we go. Slight difference. Nowadays, I think when people talk about the rule, they're not saying like you should aim for half your age plus 7. They're saying, hey, don't go younger than half your age plus 7.
And yeah, my other lit pick is the well. There's quite a few gifs in this movie that I've seen, like Malcolm X, standing next to the window with a gun, him banging his fist on the desk. But there's also the great. It's not just a gif; it's a clip where he goes, "That brother's starving," which I've seen many a time to kind of mock people who are too horny online. Have you seen that before?
I have, yes.
Yes, and it's just funny to see it in real life, in the flesh.
Yeah, we can all agree that that GIFs and memes have degenerated all of the great intellectuals of the past.
That is a great. Again, it's just so out of context. Just that brother's starving. Just I love that. Yes, such a different context in the film to what it is applied online. But yeah. Let us get into the old plot, Michael. This Malcolm X screenplay is again based on Alex Haley's 1965 book, The Autobiography of Malcolm X. Haley collaborated with Malcolm X on the book beginning in '63 and completed it after Malcolm X's death. So there you have it. I guess that makes sense in terms of, you asked before, how could he write his death scene into the book? Haley had a. I think Haley might have done that part, but anyway. The film dramatises key events in Malcolm X's life: his criminal career, his incarceration, his conversion to Islam, his ministry as a member of the Nation of Islam, and his later falling out with the organisation, his marriage to Betty X, his pilgrimage to Mecca, and re-evaluation of his views concerning whites, and his assassination on February the 21st, 1965. Defining childhood incidents, including his father's death, his mother's mental illness, and his experiences with racism, are dramatised in the flashbacks. So yeah, of course, there's a lot there. You've even got flashbacks thrown in, but it's just his life. It just covers all of his life, and yeah, that is the movie. And again, it's very. I'm not saying it's easy to write a screenplay, but you've got a very nice basis with this autobiography.
Yes,
and as long as you get a good actor to play Malcolm X, which is, of course, Denzel Washington, which we'll get onto later. I think, it doesn't seem like, that complicated a plot to pull off, does it, Michael?
Yeah, I definitely agree. Like, it is very simple. Like, that is the thing, like, actually, and you kind of already, I guess, like, touched on the fact that it's some pretty simple kind of, like, I said it was like a 3-act structure, where it is, like, he's a criminal and like he's bad, and then he kind of like has, I guess, a moment where he becomes enlightened, but then it gets complicated, and then he has obviously the moment where he kind of goes in a new direction and he achieves an even more complete like characterization. And it's just like, wow, well done, Malcolm X. You really managed to live out a good kind of 3-act structure. And I also think, I do think that using the flashbacks helped a lot, because obviously like otherwise it would have had to have been 4 acts, and who's ever heard of a 4-act structure? They would have had to show his childhood and his dad and all that, and then shown his criminal. So I think it was a good idea to kind of intersperse that stuff about his childhood, intercut with his narrative as an adult.
Yeah, no, I think that was good as well. Yeah, so again, it wasn't. I'm not saying it was easy, but yeah, it is kind of all laid out for you. His life and the autobiography. It's a very good person to try and do a biopic on. But yeah, let's get into the production, Michael, because I find this interesting as well. So Warner Brothers initially wanted Oscar-nominated Canadian film director Norman Jewison.
Jewison?
Yeah, to direct the film. And can you guess that Jewison was not black?
Yeah.
There may be something about his name which,
Yes, it sounds like not black. Oh, and also apparently, I just looked up, and apparently he directed a film of Fiddler on the Roof, which, that's obviously a very Jewish, a classically Jewish story.
I didn't say he was Jewish.
But he does seem Jewish. I
Why?
bet he is Jewish. Well, because he's called Jewison. I mean, I know it's like not got an H in it, but I guarantee he's Jewish, okay?
Okay, well, check.
Okay, this is actually really funny. He is often mistaken for being Jewish due to his surname and direction of Fiddler on the Roof.
Okay.
So there we go. Like literally the exact thing which I was like, he must be Jewish because he directed Fiddler on the Roof, and that's like a really.
So you're a racist then? That's what we've proven. And see, I did
Well,
not
yeah.
judge a man by his name,
Yeah.
but you did.
Yeah. Well, wait until you hear what I think of Mallory Blackman.
Okay.
I think she's a man.
Okay, that's great. Jewison, director of seminal civil rights films In the Heat of the Night, was able to bring Denzel Washington into the project to play Malcolm X, so that was a good decision. Jewison and Washington worked together in the 1984 film A Soldier's Story, but a protest erupted over the fact that a white director was slated to make the film. Spike Lee was one of the main voices of criticism. It's just he. Spike Lee, he's clever, isn't he?
He was running his con, or whatever they say in this film.
Since college, he had considered a film adaptation of the autobiography of Malcolm X to be a dream project. Lee and others felt that it was appropriate that only a black person should direct Malcolm X. After the public outcry against Jewison, Worth concluded that it needed a black director at this point. It was insurmountable the other way. There's a grave responsibility here. Jewison left the project, though he noted he gave up the movie not because of the protest, but because he could not reconcile Malcolm's private and public lives and was unsatisfied with the Charles Fuller script. Lee confirmed Jewison's position, stating, "If Norman actually thought he could do it, he would have really fought me, but he bowed out gracefully." Jewison and Denzel Washington would reunite several years later for The Hurricane, in which Washington played imprisoned boxer Reuben Hurricane Carter, who spent nearly 20 years in prison for a murder he claimed he did not commit before his conviction was overturned in 1985. And see, that's a much nicer film, isn't it? An innocent black guy accused of murder. He didn't do it. He eventually gets out and he's free.
Yeah. Unlike Malcolm X, who was not innocent and did do it.
It's not such a morally complicated film, but this one was. And so, Jewison clearly had issues with his private life and his personal life with Malcolm X. What do you think that could mean, Michael?
I think it probably means that, it sounds like, I mean, the thing is, it says like personal life, which is a bit weird because obviously, but I mean, it sounds as if he in some way objected to Malcolm X's career, let's say. I mean, it sounds a little bit like that in a kind of suspicious way. I mean, the thing is, it's a bit weird because he said, like saying personal and private life is, obviously not his public speeches. You would think, I guess, if he, so it's a bit of a weird thing to say because obviously the I guess objectionable stuff from the perspective of like a white person is more Malcolm X's public stuff. But whatever, it does sound definitely, and I believe the kids are saying sus.
But anyway, Michael, yes. So let's get off with the movie then. So let's dive into it. So we start off with the speech from Malcolm X condemning the white man. He says, "We haven't seen the American dream, just the American nightmare." And you got some nice Rodney King footage spliced in. Is that spliced in?
Yes, because that's relevant.
Lucky this wasn't released a year earlier then, because then, thank God Rodney King was beaten at that time so Spike Lee could use him in this.
He was suggesting that perhaps Spike Lee is responsible for Rodney King being beaten.
No, I'm just saying Spike Lee was counting his lucky stars that Rodney King got.
Oh, yeah, he was counting his lucky stars.
That Rodney King got beaten, yes. No, obviously I'm joking. But yeah, it's interesting that Spike Lee likes doing that. But he did it at the end of the movie Black Klansman, if you remember.
Yes.
With the footage of the Charlottesville rally.
Yes. Jews will not divide us or replace us or whatever.
Yeah. So we get into the movie, and again, it is a character arc of Malcolm X. And of course, it's always very interesting when you start the origins when he is just so different to, of course, what he becomes. He gets his hair, I believe the term is conked.
Yes. I think it was conched, actually, but don't hold me to that.
Yes, something like that. We're white, so we wouldn't know. We don't have to do that to our hair,
Yeah, exactly.
It really looks beautiful. And of course he, dates a white girl, basically does not have any interest in being black, as it were, certainly compared to his dad, right? He was, very proud black preacher, which I have to say his dad doesn't really come up, with him in the rest of the movie. And I thought
that's a good point. Yeah,
definitely would. It's very much at the beginning, and then it's like, when he's in the prison later on, he doesn't really think about his dad and what he was preaching when he was a kid. But And I don't know. I thought that may have been a better choice. But anyway, yeah, he tells a story about when he was at school. He was called the N word and it didn't bother him.
Yes.
Just didn't bother him. And all what does he say? The kids treated him like a mascot.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So
and the guy at his school said that he can't be a lawyer.
Yeah, can't be a lawyer. He'd be a good carpenter. That's what he said. But yeah, that's the thing. It's just a case of, oh yeah, he has absolutely no idea about. Well, of course he knows he's black, but he just doesn't care about the fact that he is black. He would.
Yes, he's not politically conscious.
Yes, he's probably one of those people who would. Yeah, if you offered him the chance to be white, just live an easier life, he'd take it easily.
Yeah, he's not black. He's Malcolm.
Yeah. Is that
that's my J Simpson reference.
Oh, I thought that was your Michael Jordan reference.
Well, hold on. I was thinking of like when O.J. Simpson said, "I'm not black, I'm O.J."
Yeah, but I know. But obviously Michael Jordan has said something similar, but you're more correct. Yes.
Okay, yeah. So that makes sense that he would have also said something similar. I guess it's just
Well, that's the thing. Michael Jordan's whole brand was, I don't care that I'm black or white. I'm just Michael.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't work as well for a basketball player though, because you got to care that you're black if you're a basketball player, because it's the only reason you're not sat on the bench.
What?
Take that, Larry Bird.
Are you implying that there's no black players on the bench in the NBA?
Yes,
it's just all white players on the bench.
It's just white people on the bench and just black people playing.
Yeah. Okay. But anyway, so what is interesting at the start? There's a lot of cutting all over the place, isn't there? Back and forth.
Yes, it's very fast paced.
Maybe how it would be in the book, perhaps in a book.
Yeah.
And you got
real page turner.
Yeah, you got voiceovers as well. Dylan would just hate it, wouldn't he?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, he would have been like. I mean, to be fair, this film definitely it does get chronological after a while, which would be good. But yeah, definitely at the beginning, it's very jumping all over the place.
Yeah, no, it gets chronological when he moves to Harlem. That's when it gets chronological. So he travels to Harlem with Sophia, of course, his white girlfriend. And he meets West Indian Archie, a gangster who runs a local numbers game at a bar. The two become best friends and start cooperating in a legal numbers racket. So basically he's just a low-level gangster. And, again, he's not conscious of his black identity. I think someone in the movie makes a point that that's the only thing you can be and enjoy a comfortable life if you were black. Just be a guy who's a con man, essentially. And I think Malcolm makes the point about maybe Archie could be a genius mathematician.
Yes, I do remember that. Yeah, because he's like really good with numbers. Yeah, I can't remember. Isn't it when he's having a shower for some reason? I feel like he says all of that. He's like,
well, it's in a voiceover, I think.
Yeah, but it's like because I feel like he's having a shower and it's like being repeated in the voiceover. But yeah, it's basically I don't know. I mean, I feel like there's also the bit where he's talking about like people being in the prison of like society, but I'm not sure if that's the same thing, if that's the same bit. But yeah, I feel like he's basically saying that obviously, yeah, they're victims of circumstance. There you go.
Yeah, and it's kind of reminiscent of that Einstein quote about all the people who work menial jobs who could be geniuses as well, but because of society's structure, they're forced to work these menial jobs instead of be like maybe a genius mathematician. But yeah, basically Malcolm, he's just living his life as a degenerate. Basically, he doesn't really care whether he lives or dies. Obviously, he tries to get some money from Archie, then he goes back to Boston, starts robbing people, and it's just like, I'm just living how basically a white society, in of course his view, would expect a black person to live, right? This is how they'd expect a black person to live, just being a thief and a crook, and that's that. But of course, he ends this section of his life with his head in the toilet, doesn't he? After he can't find water.
Yes, exactly.
He ends the section of his life with his head in the toilet, trying to conch his hair to be white, which is, I think, quite poetic from Spike Lee.
Yeah. Why was the water turned off?
I don't know, but
what a plot hole.
I don't care because it works. Yeah. See, that's the kind of thing which really works and it's good. But
it's symbolic.
Yeah, exactly. It is symbolic, or poetic, as I said. But yeah, either take your pick. But yeah, so that's I like that bit. So yeah, it shows how you go down this path. You try to be white, and you end up just with your head in the toilet, and getting arrested. with it if you try to do this lifestyle.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a path you want to go down.
It shows us. It like sets it up nicely for the contrast, seeing him at his lowest point.
And again, that's the thing we're talking about. It like, oh yeah, that's if you want, that's a good thing to put in your movie about you.
But it actually happened.
Yeah, your civil rights leader. But yeah, this is based on his actual life. Again, his life is perfect.
There's a whole section on his Wikipedia about having his head down the toilet.
Yeah, yeah. But again, it just goes to show, that set up, this is how much of a degenerate he was, so far from his black identity. It just goes to show once again how perfect his life was for a movie. But of course, he goes to prison, and he gets the Obi-Wan treatment, I guess, or would it be more the Yoda treatment on Dagobah?
Nerd.
What do you mean nerd?
You're talking about these obscure nerdy franchise called Star Wars.
Nobody's heard of Star Wars. Yeah.
He gets kind of, or you could say like, I don't know, like maybe Morbius from the Matrix. Like, you've been living in a dream world, Malcolm.
You know what you just called him?
What?
What you call Lawrence Fishburne's character?
Oh yeah. Morpheus. Oh my goodness, I didn't even realize. Yeah, that's funny. I mean, obviously, I called him. I like when he says it's Morbin time.
And then you went to do it for a second time before stopping yourself.
Yeah, I know. It's just in my brain that Morbius.
Great. So like Morpheus, but yeah. So this older black guy who was a member of the Nation of Islam, who of course then betrays him later on in the movie. What was his name again? Was it Baines? I think it was.
Yeah, Baines.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah,
played by Tom Hardy.
That's great. Who mocks him for being ashamed of who he is, and says, "Oh, you're trying to make yourself look white." And again, it's the conch is a really good device for this movie because he's literally burning himself and hurting himself while he conches or conks, whatever. And trying to make himself look more white because that's the style, that's the fashion. I remember actually, I didn't bring this up before. The billboard that almost starts the movie it's an advertisement for Coke. Remember that?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, and it says like Coke's in and the colours in, and a white person holding a can of Coke. Yeah, because we watched the first 20 minutes of this movie in a history class one time. And,
we watched it in a history class too. I think we watched more than the first 20 minutes though, so haha.
And we hardly got to watch movies.
Yeah. Your history class was just about Malcolm X as a criminal. Like they didn't care at all about his civil rights activism. So we're learning about the criminal Malcolm X.
Yeah. But actually, to be fair, we've done 2 movies in 2 weeks, which I have watched in class. I watched a large section of To Kill a Mockingbird, in actual class. We just watched the first 20 minutes of Malcolm X. I remember the teacher pointing out, look at what it says on the advertisement board, colours in, Coke's in or whatever. And I remember watching at the time, them do that stuff to the hair, and I was like, what the fuck? What are they doing? And I remember them being really happy, I think the teacher pointing it out, they're trying to make themselves look more white, and I thought when they exited the fucking barbershop, I'm like, what the fuck are they doing? They don't look more white. Well, that's stupid. But that's the thing. It's
you used to think black people were stupid.
But that's the thing. It's true. The older black guy agrees with me, Michael, because he makes a good point that white people know that Denzel Washington or Malcolm X is not actually white, and they're just laughing at him for making his hair look like that because you're trying to be like us, but obviously you're not like us, and you're basically admitting by doing that that
you wish you were like us.
White people are superior to black people because you got to basically burn your hair, your natural hair, to try and make it look like ours, which of course we don't have to do that. Baines, this member of the Nation of Islam, basically teaches him about the group's leader, Elijah Muhammad. He tells Malcolm, black men were kings, they were kings. And
yes,
he tries to show just how badly black people have been treated by the white man throughout history. And you got to say, Michael, I think he's got a point. Do you think he's got a point?
I suppose it's true that there have been occasionally some white people who have been bad. I think that's a good point. I mean it's a pretty obvious point to make. I would say, especially from the perspective of a what's it called, African American, somebody who obviously literally descends from like slavery and all that kind of stuff. I mean, what does he say? He says, "We are the living proof of those charges."
Yeah, Malcolm X says that. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, yeah, that's I know I was being a bit ambiguous with my pronouns there. But yeah, so like obviously it's a pretty easy point to make. But he does make it.
Yeah. I mean, all I could think about when he was talking, I was like, oh yeah, it's no wonder that this movement, like the Nation of Islam, sprang up given the conditions black people were in North America, and it's again,
Yes.
you just need someone to like open their eyes, basically, and yeah, it's not hard to see how many people could join the Nation of Islam, and Jackie Robinson, obviously, they make a big deal about him going to the MLB. He's playing in the big leagues now. Because before you had white baseball and black baseball. And yeah, to be fair, it was a momentous occasion that you look back on in history, but obviously didn't really make that big a difference to black people, at the time. It's a big deal for Jackie Robinson, but yeah, you can maybe argue, like, the debate about is, material conditions, them changing is important, but, you got symbols and people you aspire to be like, from your community who make it to positions of power. Like
Yes.
Jackie Robinson, that's also important, right, to some extent. And of course, Malcolm, grows interested in the Muslim religion and the lifestyle promoted by the group, and begins to resent white people for mistreating his race, doesn't he?
Yeah. I was going to say he could have made the point that it doesn't matter because baseball is boring. I just thought that would be, would have been perhaps a more compelling point. But no, yeah, definitely. And obviously you get the scene with the dictionary where it's like language, which is what's it? Noam Chomsky. Consensus, something about consensus. I can't remember. But basically, the thing Noam Chomsky talks about.
Are you
where, like,
thinking manufacturing consent?
Yeah, I think that's it. Yes, manufactured consent, where it's like you use language and stuff to manipulate people.
Yes, yes, and that was it was funny how blatant it was. Like, why is honourable? Wait, what? Yeah, obviously that is a kind of an eye opener for him, and yeah, I do wonder why was it that around this time, because of course you had Martin Luther King with the civil rights movement that began in 1955. Obviously, Malcolm X gets out of prison in 1952, and the rises, in the Nation of Islam, and around the same time, in the 1950s, and then of course you had like the Black Panther Party as well. Why was it about this section of time in America, which led so many of these movements to independently just kind of spring up, focusing on, black liberation or, black, civil rights. It's because it's interesting. You didn't get any of this shit in the 1930s. There was nothing like that. Nothing to the same extent anyway. It was like, what was it about this time? Because, Malcolm X had nothing to do with freaking Martin Luther King.
Yeah. Yeah, it's. I mean, there's probably a reason for it. You know what it probably was? It's probably all the communist agents coming in and trying to stir up trouble. It could be as simple. I was gonna say. It could be because of like mass media and stuff, like making people more aware.
I was thinking that
50s is when the TV was invented.
Yeah,
or became popular.
Yeah. The TV became popular, but that was, I think, mainly in white American homes. I'm not sure.
Well, you know what it was? They were all thinking it was all they wanted in life was the BET.
Yeah, I guess so.
Like they were just annoyed that they didn't get the TV.
You know what I love about BET? Oh, do you know about the season 2 of The Wire?
I don't know about it, but you've probably told me about it before.
It's basically The Wire. If you think about it, people think of The Wire, it's like, oh, it's a show about black drug dealers, basically, and the problems of inner city.
Well, what you've told me before is that each season kind of has an individual focus.
Yes, but the thing is, in season 2, it's not about black drug dealers. Really, it's about whites. What are they called? Like cargo handlers, people that take down the cargo off the ship.
Oh, dock workers.
Yeah, that's it. Fucking dock workers. Yeah, the fucking dockers. Like they're called longshoremen or something. And basically, what the BET network did is like they cut all of those scenes out of season 2 of The Wire, and again, that's what the story was primarily focused on. So you had like 15-minute episodes from season 2 of The Wire just on like the black characters doing their thing.
Yeah, also, there's an article by The Onion that says that the sale of the BET to a white supremacist group results in no change to programming.
I hope that's accurate, because I heard it on a podcast.
Well, I just looked it up, and it's on Wikipedia, which is, as long as the Wikipedia doesn't use your your what's it called as a source.
Podcast,
American
yeah.
Basic Cable Network, BET, also aired the show. Much of the waterfront storyline from the second season is edited out from the BET broadcasts,
Yeah, there you go.
and it's from the source is a newspaper called the Daily Bruin.
Okay, well, I'll trust the Daily Brew. I think that's true.
Yes.
Yeah. So I love that story. But yeah, anyway, back to the idea of why did these movements pop up in the 1950s? It is an interesting question, and I guess mass media probably. That's probably it. Probably better, but maybe not every black family had a TV, but there was TVs around more often. Better radio, technology improved so much, but better distribution in newspapers, I guess. It's just like people were more aware of what was happening, and more aware of other people doing stuff about it. I imagine maybe just, black families being able to maybe telephone each other. Or not black families, just black people, being able to have access to the telephone to organise and meet up. Maybe that was possible because of technological advancements in the 1950s.
Yes, or maybe it's a complicated, interconnected web where, like the flap of a butterfly's wing causing a monsoon half the world away, just something. Maybe it was because of just one little thing that happened, and it all kind of snowballed.
Yeah,
I feel like my brain is almost telling me that just because I don't know if you know this, but World War II was kind of a big deal. That World War II might have something to do with it somehow. Maybe it was to do with the when the GIs got home. I know there was a whole thing where they would get special treatment, and maybe that increased because I bet black people didn't get anything like as many perks. So that probably increased inequality.
We're talking 10 years after the end of World War II. So
that's a good point.
It's a pretty long time period. Again, the Montgomery bus boycott started in 1955.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff in Malcolm X, in the movie where Malcolm X is just basically dropping some wokeness, on it. Some stuff,
definitely.
Some stuff which you would get eye rolls if you said it on a college campus today. That's the thing. Yeah. I think all the stuff regarding Jesus not actually being white and him basically being Middle Eastern, a person of color. Which makes sense, but today that just doesn't seem controversial.
Yeah, that's kind of the thing. When he stands up and he's just like, "Whoa, guess what? Jesus didn't actually have blonde hair and blue eyes." It's okay, thanks, Malcolm.
I mean, it would be met with a sigh if someone said that today. I can't recall anything like that, but I'm telling you, it would not be surprising if some of the people in my political seminars tried to make that point as an interesting kind of point. They thought they were really smart doing it. And internally, I would just be eye rolling, not on the outside, just internally, because I'm a coward. But yeah, but that's the thing to say at that time. That would have been pretty damn crazy, And again, the stuff about the X at the end of the name instead of the slave name, that's pretty smart when you think about it, because it gets you attention as well, brings attention to your cause, and it does make you step back and think, oh yeah, my name was given to me, my surname was given to me by white slavers. That is why I have this surname, Little. That is why. And again, it's not my name, it's not my family's history, it's literally the name of the person who enslaved and tortured my family. That's their name. And I carry around that name all the time. And that is something, that if you're black would probably make you take a step back and think, oh yeah, I never really considered that. That is kind of crazy. And again, she could say, well, it's my mother's and my father's name. I don't want to disrespect them. It gets a bit more complicated, of course. But yeah, I think that is again, that is quite revolutionary what he did. Yeah.
Did you know that Muhammad Ali, his name Cassius Clay actually comes from his dad was given freedom and chose the name of Cassius Clay for himself because Cassius Clay was actually a famous American abolitionist. But Muhammad Ali didn't know that, and therefore he thought so. There's basically it's just a fun fact about which I always remember. Yeah, because Muhammad Ali, which you can't blame him for thinking that. Because obviously that's how it was the majority of the time. But yeah, somebody did some digging and found out that actually the origin of his name was actually freely chosen by his free parents. But whatever. Anyway,
to be fair, Muhammad Ali is quite a cool name as well.
Yeah, that is true. I mean, is it? See, the thing is though, is it just cool because Muhammad Ali was quite a cool guy? Nah, that's a cool name anyway.
I think it sounds cool.
Yeah, it is cool. But yeah, I agree with you that it's a good jolt to just be like, even your name isn't yours, you know, like there's yeah, I know what it is. There's like a song by Ice Cube, and at the beginning it has Malcolm X speaking, and he's like no, what's your name? We don't have names like Jones or Smith or Powell where we come from. What's your name? How did the white man take away your name? How did the white man wipe out your history?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's a real joke. It's a really good thing to get angry about, you know, not having a name.
Funny moment would be like a bunch of black people like, yeah, let's take some African names, and they go and actually see the African names, like Abba Wunsuf of you know, loads of vowels.
Obawam Jumbe.
Yeah, it's like, oh, this isn't. I can't say this.
Yeah.
I'll go back to Smith. Yeah.
Yeah, Smith is a very easy name to say.
Yeah, it is. Hey, you know, James might be the name of a racist slaveholder, but it's very easy to say. But yeah, you're right. It is like a massive jolt. That's the thing, you know. I think for a lot of black people, just what he was saying was it is kind of a case of awakening them from their slumber. You know, it's not surprising how this message, you know, caught on so quickly. You know, with you know, Malcolm X, obviously he's being, you know, very charismatic and everything, but you know, it must have been eye opening at the time, because of course when I, you know, learned about Black history and learned all these, I guess I don't want to demean them by saying talking points. But you understand what I mean by that? Just things to say or things.
Memes is the more respectable term.
Not memes, no. About yeah, Jesus isn't white. Oh yeah, you think about how badly black people have been treated and have still been treated to this day. Yeah, they should be really angry and they should want to, you know, revolt. And what would true justice be for black Americans? It would be just giving them so much. You know, if you really want to think, you know. Take an eye-opening view of things, you know, like expand your mind about it, I guess. Yeah, you know, and of course he talked about how, you know, you're not slaves, but you are in a prison, and it's like, yeah, I can definitely see how so many people would agree with that line of
thinking.
Yeah, absolutely, and yeah, of course, one of the other things that Malcolm X preached about was the Nation of Islam wanted the black community to basically be self-reliant. You know, it focused a lot on self-improvement and self-reliance. And I think...
Yeah, I bet the conservative Republicans would like that. They'd just be like, hey, what, we don't have to give you any welfare?
Yeah, but that's the thing I do think about when he says, yeah, we want segregation between the blacks and the whites, and we just want to do things ourselves. Like, that's the thing. Surely there must have been some white Republicans who were like, you know
yes.
what? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like obviously all the stuff about the white devil, we hate white people, you know, obviously they didn't agree with that. But that's the thing, Malcolm X at this part of his life was fundamentally conservative.
Yeah, well, you know what? See, I find it interesting because what I was thinking to myself is it seems to me like they kind of hint at the idea that kind of, you know, the government authorities were monitoring Malcolm X. I mean, they don't hint at it, they literally show it. But like you compare it to, obviously, I guess the two other kind of big you know, like civil rights people, I guess, if you can say for civil rights, would be Fred Hampton, who we've obviously seen the film about, and MLK, who everyone knows. And like in both those cases, like MLK, I mean, I don't know if it's 100% agreed that, you know, the FBI or CIA killed him.
I know they definitely did.
Yeah, okay, yeah, they definitely did, yeah. And obviously they were definitely monitoring him, they were threatening him. Like it was basically MLK versus the FBI. And in the case of Fred Hampton, he was literally executed by, again, was it the FBI?
It's the Chicago Police Department.
Okay, Chicago Police Department, yeah, but he was literally executed by the police. And conversely, with Malcolm X, I mean, certainly if this film is anything to go by, he didn't really have much of a you know, threat placed upon him from the white authorities. And that would kind of make sense when you consider that actually he would have been, I think, less of a threat. Because, I mean, Fred Hampton was a communist. MLK, he said that, like, poverty was the biggest war that, like, the biggest war they had to fight was against poverty. And meanwhile, Malcolm X was like, hey, you know, self-reliance, pick yourself up by your bootstraps. So in a way, yeah, ironically,
pro-segregation.
Yeah, while he's kind of known as like this sort of radical guy, it's definitely true that I don't think it's a coincidence that he was the only one who probably wasn't really killed by the FBI. I mean, maybe you could say,
no. Malcolm X was killed by the FBI.
How confident are you about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's basically confirmed. There's a documentary that...
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Never mind then.
Yeah, no, but that's the thing. That's the question thing. Why was he killed by the FBI at that point? Because...
he changed, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You completely forget his character arc at the end of the movie, and indeed, of course, that happened in real life. But at this point, he was, if anything, to like the FBI, he was like useful. It's like,
Yeah.
this is this scary black guy who, of course, has a lot of followers, who's very influential, who's saying white people are devils. It's like, oh, okay, so, you know, maybe it's a good thing that we don't have segregation. Oh, so we do. It's a good thing we do have segregation, and we don't have, you know, more civil rights for black people. If this is what they actually are like, you know, if they're all like Malcolm X, you know, it's completely different to the MLK situation. So that's why I don't think they were ever, you know, under Malcolm X was never going to get assassinated. Up until, of course,
he did his switch.
He did his switch, yeah. Then it became very convenient to do that, which we'll get into later. But yeah, that's the thing. In talking about this movie, obviously Spike Lee, in Do the Right Thing, he had his old the guy with the boombox who
with the pictures.
Who also was he with the pictures? Was
oh no, sorry. Oh no, sorry. Yeah, the pictures guy was Mookie. Is it Mookie? Oh no, sorry, Mookie. Whatever. The guy with the pictures is the guy who couldn't talk properly.
Yes. Mookie is of course Spike Lee's character, but yeah, the guy with the boombox who had like two fists, which was to symbolize like one was Malcolm X, one was MLK.
Yeah, and it was love and hate.
Yeah, love and hate, and it was like you got to use both. So that's what his message was. You know, you got to use both to win. So clearly, Spike Lee did feel like this from Malcolm X was necessary. You know, obviously he had his character turn at the end of the movie when he became more like MLK once he went to Mecca. But beforehand, he clearly was, you know, very radical, very extreme in his views. But Spike Lee was like, yeah, maybe this was necessary. Maybe it was necessary to it could be to contrast, like, hey, this is MLK is the good black guy. You know, you want to, you want to listen to him. Really, he seems a lot more reasonable compared to this guy.
They did basically good cop bad cop routine.
It was literally the good cop bad cop routine. Yeah. So basically, my point is, we can determine from Do the Right Thing, we think that Spike Lee did broadly agree with a lot of what Malcolm X was saying at this time of his. At this time of his life, maybe not specifically to do with like white, you know, devils and so on, but you know, in terms of like, look at how basically we have been put in a prison, you know, and we need to wake ourselves up. You know, that the whole, what was the quote about the knife in the back?
Oh yes, it's if you stick a knife in the back, then it's not justice if you pull the knife halfway out. It's not even justice if you pull the knife all the way out. It's only justice when you start to repair the wound that the knife left. Right now, they're not repairing the wound. They're not even acknowledging the knife is there.
Yeah, and that is, again, he was very bullish with his rhetoric, clearly Malcolm X, but it feels like, oh yeah, that rhetoric is definitely necessary.
Yeah, I also remember one time when he said that he wouldn't knife Jeremy Corbyn in the back, he would knife him in the front.
That's great. But yeah, so you agree with my interpretation that just from
Spike Lee agrees with it.
Spike Lee agrees with a lot of what he says at this stage of his life.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. It is interesting. Yeah, I was kind of trying to work out, like, I guess, what's the, judgment on Malcolm X was that was kind of coming from this film. Like, you know, to what extent it was, to what extent it was being agreed with and what parts were being agreed with. And yeah, I think there definitely is, when it comes to that aspect of, like, I guess saying what needs to be said and, like, not trying to be too polite. I think there is a respect for that's kind of communicated by the film. Yeah,
just telling you how it is. Yeah. And that is, I think it's nice, it's cathartic, and sometimes it's necessary. But yeah, also just like, the white liberal girl asking Malcolm X, what can she do to further their goals? And he just says nothing like that. And yeah, that's Malcolm X's, again, Spike Lee likes to throw in those characters in his movies. He didn't do the right thing with that guy with the Larry Bird jersey.
Larry Bird, yeah, I was thinking that, yeah.
Yeah, serves a kind of a similar function. But yeah, blacks, he doesn't want them to be in debt to whites at this stage of his life. He wants segregation. He doesn't think they can coexist, side by side with white people. And again, considering, he's taking a broad view of history, look at what's happened these last 400 years, I think it would be fair to come to that conclusion again, which is the appeal of Malcolm X. It's no wonder how he did have so much appeal. But let's get on to Denzel Washington, Michael, shall we? Do you think he does a good job as Malcolm X? Because I think it's crazy that he looks as much like Malcolm X as he does.
Yes.
He sounds very much like him as well. And he's got the charisma too. It's just an all-time perfect casting.
Yeah. It almost makes you think that Malcolm X faked his death and went on to actually become Denzel Washington. No, yeah, it really does work well as casting. I mean, the thing is, I guess you could say it doesn't necessarily serve as much of a credit to Denzel Washington's acting, because you could be like, well, he's so similar. It was basically, basically cheating at that point.
No, but that's the thing. He's not like his voice.
No, yeah, that's it. I think like the
it's
subtleties of his cadence.
Yeah, yeah. His cadence sounds very much like Malcolm X, and of course I've seen him in other movies. Like Training Day. Doesn't sound anything like how he does in this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, and obviously when he's giving his speeches in front of the cameras, it's great. I mean, he captures him so well. It is literally like, this is Malcolm X. It feels so much like him, and I couldn't believe it when I looked. He didn't get nominated for an Academy Award for this performance, but I guess he was black, so hashtag Oscars so white. I know he did. Sorry, I apologize. He did get nominated for Best Actor. He didn't win though. I didn't see it on the initial Wikipedia thing, so unless I missed it. Oh yeah, he did. Sorry, I did miss it. My apologies. But yeah, I was like, oh, he's got to get nominated, and he did. Who won that year? That is the question.
In 1992.
Yeah, 93 obviously was when the.
Oh, sorry, 1993. Yeah, so it would have been for a film from 1992.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny.
Is it some kind of, I don't know, white thing?
Oh no, sorry, I'm looking at the wrong category. My apologies. It's not Clint Eastwood. He won Best Director. No, the Best Actor was Al Pacino.
For Scent of a Woman.
Scent of a Woman as Lieutenant Colonel Frank Slade. So there you go. Clint Eastwood was also nominated for Best Actor, but he didn't win it. And
was that for Unforgiven, or am I getting my films mixed up?
You are correct. It was for Unforgiven. And Robert Downey Jr. was also nominated.
Was that for Chaplin?
Yes, Chaplin. Okay.
Well, yeah, I'm an expert on films from 1992.
Let's do it then. Stephen Rea.
I don't even know who that is.
He nominated for his role in The Crying Game.
Oh, okay, yeah, I have heard of that film, but okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Clearly I flew too close to the sun.
Okay. Right, we'll not go through Best Actresses.
Good.
Yeah, good. Right, but yeah, so Denzel Washington, incredible, really incredible. And we'll now get on to the next stage of the review, Michael, which is talking about some of the background to this movie. Because, of course, there's obviously throughout history being a contrast between Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, and this movie does bring that up with Malcolm X saying ignorant Negro preachers who tell us we should turn the other cheek, which is, of course, a clear shot at Martin Luther King, basically saying that MLK, is an Uncle Tom, a chicken-pecking Uncle Tom as well.
Yeah. Do you ever think about the fact that if this had happened like in the post-hip-hop era, there probably would have been a rap beef?
Are you saying Biggie and Tupac are the modern version of MLK and Malcolm X? Yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
One's from the South.
MLK, exactly. MLK represents the South Coast.
The Mason-Dixon line is the dividing line.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it is a weird one because, obviously, MLK... You gotta respect him, and I think to some extent, I guess ultimately, the logic is,
like a sports commentator.
I know like we kind of already said, it's a case of you do need both to some extent. You need the person who's going to be nice and really just, I guess, supremely morally virtuous.
And white America still hates him.
Yeah, I know exactly. Yeah, that's kind of the thing. But yeah, I think obviously. It would make. I imagine that the film is kind of adopting a position of actually that Malcolm X is wrong to be totally dismissive of MLK, but that he's kind of right to at least try to be a bit more forceful than MLK was being.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, and that's the thing. I can imagine how MLK would be very frustrating, to someone who would again see just the corruption, or just not corruption. It's not even corruption because it's just the law. How black people are treated, and and just let's march peacefully and get shot at and bitten by rabid dogs. Oh yeah, that'll be great. Obviously, I think the real thing that changed things was JFK being shot, which ironically, of course, Malcolm X said it was he deserved it, and and that really did change things, getting those civil rights bills passed. But yeah, but firstly, we'll talk about the difference between MLK and Malcolm X, and of course the movie brings it up, which is interesting because the whole we should pray and pray and love our enemy. Malcolm X says in the movie that's not intelligent, and it's clearly showing that Malcolm X is not like MLK. He's distancing himself from MLK, and he actually, thinks MLK is stupid, basically. And this gets us onto Spike Lee and the background of this movie, because Spike Lee was obviously named the director, and then he edited the script afterwards. And basically, he said, I want to get my vision of Malcolm X across. But he said, I'm not sitting atop a mountain saying, screw everyone, this is Malcolm I see. I've done the research, I've talked to the people who were there. But soon after, Spike Lee was announced as the director, and before its release, Malcolm X received some criticism by black nationalists, a member of the United Front to Preserve the Legacy of Malcolm X, headed by poet and playwright Amari Baraka, who were worried about Lee's portrayal of Malcolm X. So, they said some based their opinion on dislike of Lee's previous films, others were concerned that he would focus on Malcolm X's life before he converted to Islam. Did he do that, Michael?
Well, he put a significant focus on it.
Yeah,
so yes.
But did he? I think the implication is that he would ignore him turning to Islam, which obviously.
Yeah, he definitely doesn't do that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He definitely didn't.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, I did look this up because I was kind of interested. Yeah, apparently Denzel Washington is not only a devout Christian, but actually has at several points in his life considered quitting acting to become a Christian preacher. So I was kind of interested in that, just because obviously Malcolm X. I don't know if you noticed this, Luke, was not Christian.
Yeah, that is interesting. But Baraka bluntly accused Spike Lee of being a buppy, which...
Well, I don't know. I'm clearly not up on my slang.
Yeah, I don't know that. I imagine that's an insult for, oh yeah, you're a black person who isn't that radical, who's pretending to be. I'm not sure.
A buppy.
Yeah, but anyway, stating, we will not let Malcolm X's life be trashed to make middle-class Negroes sleep easier.
Wow.
So they were worried that Spike Lee was going to MLK Malcolm X. He was going to make him like MLK. And basically, he compelled others to write to the director and warn him not to mess up Malcolm's life. Some, including Lee himself, noted the irony that many of the arguments made against him mirrored those made against Norman Jewison. But the thing is, of course, Spike Lee proved those guys wrong, as we have been through. He drew a clear contrast between Malcolm X and MLK. I mean, those black nationalists probably weren't big fans of MLK, and he was like, "Yeah, these guys, who follow MLK, they're stupid. Turn the other cheek. That's a load of bullshit. They're Uncle Toms, and he called him ignorant as well. So it's just funny that these critiques were like, oh yeah, this is going to be just, we will not want Malcolm X's life be trashed to make middle-class Negroes sleep easier. It's like, no, he firmly in that movie, again, because it's based on his autobiography, and I think, it has to be the case that it's very, it's just exactly what the autobiography says, and clearly Malcolm X, wasn't that big a fan of MLK, was he? So, yeah, I think Spike Lee kind of proved those critics wrong, wouldn't you say, Michael?
No, yeah, he definitely, he kowtowed to them. You know what that is, though? I bet his original plan, and then he realised, he was like, now I've got to prove them wrong. We should have pivoted too hard, really hard the other direction, just turn Malcolm X into a terrorist or something. Yeah,
again, I think this is a faithful adaptation of the book and his life, so, yeah. Doubts about Elijah Muhammad start to surface for Malcolm X after Malcolm learns that Muhammad had fathered numerous children out of wedlock, contradicting his teachings on Islam. Wow, a religious person who's a hypocrite?
Yeah. I mean, so yeah, I find this really interesting I think it's one of my favorite things in the film, which is that, Malcolm X is really cool. But what's kind of interesting about him is that he does kind of basically, I guess, get played or something. It's kind of you think about, for example, other, I guess, I mean, to be honest, I've never seen a biopic about MLK. I don't even know if one exists. But obviously, I guess I'm thinking about, Fred Hampton, because it's really the only
There's a Selma.
Oh, really? Is that okay? Yeah. I've heard of that film. I didn't even know anything about it, to be honest. But yeah, basically, obviously, usually, I mean, well, with Fred Hampton and obviously with MLK, they basically were consistently on the right track, and there's not really anything, they weren't manipulated or kind of going down the wrong track. Whereas Malcolm X was definitely manipulated into basically being a recruiting tool for what is revealed to be. And the thing is, I actually already know this, which is that, because I remember seeing some, I guess, Orthodox Muslims, kind of Orthodox meaning just regular kind of Sunni, Shia, all that. And they were basically saying that the Nation of Islam, from the perspective of actual Muslims, is basically just a weird cult that like isn't actually representative of Islam at all. And obviously I guess the film kind of touches on that with, of course, Malcolm X going to do the Hajj in Saudi Arabia,
Yes.
and like meeting actual Muslims and realizing, oh wait, which I have to say this because it's the craziest thing. I literally found it out today entirely coincidentally. The Nation of Islam teaches that Jacob, like the prophet, was a scientist who lived 6,000 years ago and made white people by genetic experimentation to create a race of mindless warrior drones. But then the white people rebelled, and that's where white people come from, which I just think is funny. But yeah, point is basically it's like kind of Scientology, and I'll say Scientology because that's the obvious cult. And
Yes.
if I mentioned something, it would be a bit maybe controversial. So yeah, it's like Scientology, where it's like just there's a leader at the top who is like manipulating everyone and sleeping around and getting loads of money, and also it's filled with all of these like crazy ideas, which would basically filter out anyone who's I guess intelligent. I don't know, whatever. But yeah, the point is, I find that really interesting because it's like he does basically end up kind of realizing, even though he's on the right track in terms of like countering racism, he realizes that he's gone down the wrong track in terms of like the people he's affiliated with, and basically got caught up with a bunch of grifters. And yeah, I really like that.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. It's a dramatic change in the story, which makes it interesting. But of course, it's his real life.
Exactly, he keeps doing it.
Yeah,
living his life like a real.
Yeah, it's perfect. It's like, yeah, this actually happened, and yeah, this man's story is just a very interesting tale. Like, oh, he's settled in the Nation of Islam. He knows where he is, where he wants to be. But a dramatic twist like Elijah Muhammad is actually, a bit of a scoundrel. Yeah,
it's also kind of like a massive flex that like nobody really cares about Elijah Muhammad. Like he's like the founder of this entire religious sect, but no one really cares about him except for in his relation to these like other more important people who joined his kind of religious group.
Yeah. No, I remember watching the documentary on Malcolm X, and there was so much attention paid to Elijah Muhammad, and I was like, really, this guy was that important? Wow, I've only really heard of Malcolm X. And so again, that's he leaves a big legacy. But yeah, again, the betrayal of a mentor after all those years, because that's what he says, he feels betrayed, and that is inherently dramatic. And again, it happens in his real life at the exact time it would be. It would be good to have your character go down another path. When he's settled in his life and he's got a wife and kids. And now, we take another turn. How is he going to react to this moral issue? But yeah, obviously he doesn't react well. He kind of gets sidelined, but then criticizes JFK after he's assassinated, and he says, it's the product of white violence that has been prevalent in America since its founding. And he says the killing is the chickens coming home to roost. And it damages Malcolm's reputation. Again, you just can't underestimate how much America was sad after JFK was shot. They really took it. They took it really hard. They did. And Muhammad suspends him from speaking to the press for 90 days. But the thing is, I think he's right. His analysis, because as we all know, it was the CIA who killed JFK, and I won't say I won't
allegedly.
I won't have anyone tell me it wasn't him. It wasn't him.
It wasn't them.
Yeah, it wasn't them. And yeah, again, the same mindset. The CIA had the same mindset as the white slavers, which is, again, the white slavers was basically, manifest destiny. We can take everything because, God is, we're backed by God. We can just zoom through America. We'll take all the land off the natives, and then we'll import black people. They can be slaves, and they're not white, God-fearing Christians or whatever. So who the fuck cares what we do to them? And yeah, let us just take it. And the CIA again thought, hey, we run the world. We can do what we want. The president didn't invade Cuba as much as we'd like, and meant we're not going to get it. Well, fuck him. We're killing him now. And yeah, I think that it's the same kind of mentality. It's the same kind of, we will take what we like. This is our world. We can do as we please. We run this world, and not even the president of the United States can stop us. And I think Malcolm X, looking back at it, I think he nailed it. I'm just saying. I know it has nothing really to do with the movie. I'm just saying.
I agree.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, really, in general, whenever anything like bad happens in a society, it's pretty much always accurate to say that it is like chickens coming home to roost, because it's like, generally speaking, if something bad is happening on like a major kind of level for society, it's unlikely that society didn't do something to cause that to happen. And obviously in this case, it's like if you have presidents being assassinated by like covert conspiracies, from the CIA, obviously, it's kind of unlike, you got to say at some level, well, you probably shouldn't have empowered this organization.
Yes.
So yeah, well done, Malcolm.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, so in early 64, Malcolm goes on a pilgrimage to Mecca where he meets Muslims from all races, including whites. Malcolm, having lost his faith in the Nation of Islam, publicly announces he is founding the Organization of Afro-American Unity, which teaches tolerance instead of racial segregation. And yeah, we get the character arc, coming at the end of the movie. He realizes he shouldn't condemn any person unless they are guilty. He is, as he said, he's become not racist. He was a racist. Now he is not a racist, and it's a nice character arc to end his story. And again, what we talked about before, Michael, that is why he's now become someone who understands and appreciates the need to like collaborate with other civil rights leaders and other white people and all of that. That is now he's a problem for the FBI, for instance.
That does make sense. I mean, I don't think he ever went like full Fred Hampton and like obviously
and his Rainbow Coalition.
Yes, Rainbow Coalition. But yeah, I think that's definitely true. And I think part of it obviously is like racial division, because it's pretty clear that the main priority of, I guess, the elites in America and pretty much every country is maintaining their kind of material wealth. Like that's obviously, and obviously they want to maintain power, but that's mostly just so that the kind of capitalist rich elite class can maintain their wealth. So as long as people are focusing on like race in and of itself, just like race as a singular kind of issue, it's not really a concern, because it's just like, but once people start kind of focusing on race and I guess a bit more of a, what's the word I'm looking for? Not intersectional, that's it, in a more kind of intersectional sense, that's when they're going to start saying, well, kind of getting to the MLK thing of like, well, actually the big problem for black people is poverty. And that's when things get bad, because then you start going all socialist.
Then you start talking about taxing the rich people and wealth distribution. Yeah. That's when it gets really bad. But yeah, so that's the thing. Obviously, he was assassinated. Maybe Malcolm X would have gotten there, throughout the rest of his life.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so, and again, there's the nice thing about a big pivotal moment in prison changes his opinions, meeting this guy. And again, I think they could have done that better, maybe with flashbacks to his dad or something.
Yeah. Speaking of flashbacks to the dad, sorry, I don't want to interrupt you, but you did just remind me of something, so it's your fault. I wanted to say, obviously, there's a scene where the Nation of Islam like throws the Molotov cocktails into his house, and like they literally intersperse that with kind of the flashbacks to the KKK bombing his house. I was kind of thinking, to what extent? Like, it's kind of interesting that there's like that direct comparison between like the Nation of Islam and the KKK. And I was thinking, like, obviously, there's kind of, I guess, two interpretations of it, which is, I guess, one, you could say the divisive rhetoric of the NOI makes them not the same, but, similar to the KKK. But the other, of course, alternative idea would be that the NOI is functioning as a kind of tool of the, I guess, again, elite. To put down people, just like how the KKK was.
Yeah, exactly. That is what I say. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, they are doing that because the FBI and the Nation of Islam at this stage, I think, were working hand in hand, because the FBI weren't afraid of the Nation of Islam. They understood that they, if anything, I think they probably understood they were good. They were a threat. Like, this is how black people actually could be. But. And also, Malcolm X, the Nation of Islam wanted to get rid of him. And obviously in that ballroom, he's killed. And obviously they shoot him several times. I obviously will get into who killed him, but I like the line from one of the FBI guys listening to him, which is like, compared to King, this guy's a monk. I found quite funny. Because obviously we all know what MLK
King was getting up to.
Yeah, in his spare time. Yeah.
You sure did have fun.
Yeah, but so again, it does portray Malcolm X in a good light at the end, and obviously, one of Malcolm's bodyguards shoots one of the shooters, and he's transported to the hospital but pronounced dead. And I think it's the Nation of Islam and the FBI with a nice little collab there. Both were happy to do it, and there was this documentary again which I watched, which was like Who Killed Malcolm X. That's literally what it's called.
Yeah.
And the name that came up was William Bradley, who wasn't the person arrested. Unsurprisingly, you won't believe this, Michael. So the person who was sent to jail for it didn't actually do it. Didn't actually kill him. And Bradley was a guy in the Nation of Islam, and the FBI basically knew it was him. And the FBI said the information about what eyewitnesses said, who killed Malcolm X. The eyewitness information should not be shown to the NYPD without first receiving bureau authority. So they were like, the NYPD, of course, who are conducting this investigation, they have a suspect. The eyewitnesses says, it was somebody completely different. The eyewitnesses said it was a bulky guy who had dark skin. They got a light-skinned guy who looked quite slim from what I could tell from the pictures. So, it's not him, the guy you've got in custody. The FBI should share that information with the NYPD. They did not. There was also basically interpreting some of the documents that William Bradley was an informant working for the FBI, which is that surprising? No, it is not. Again, Malcolm X definitely assassinated by the FBI, covered up as well. So, it's again not really that surprising at all. But of course, that was only revealed in a documentary, I think, in 2020. That's when it came out. Of course, this movie was released 28 years prior. So, we'll just have to do with Giancarlo Esposito shooting him.
I noticed it was him.
Yeah. Anyway, Michael, let's.
They also, by the way, as a random reporter, they had Christopher Moltisanti from The Sopranos.
That's good. Anyway,
that was weird.
Shall we give our conclusion? You go first.
Yes. So this film, pretty much said everything about it. Like, obviously, the thing is, it is literally just a straight retelling of somebody's life, which kind of, as I already said at the beginning, you could say, well, that's a bit of a boring way to do a biopic. But having said that, this guy did have, as we pointed out several times, literally a life that was like made to be a movie. And it works so well as a kind of conventional narrative. And that's not just kind of like the, I guess, swings and roundabouts of like his sort of moral situation, like his ideological position, but also like the intrigue that comes from him genuinely being, I guess, kind of challenged on his convictions even later in the film. And I guess obviously the kind of moral nuance and also kind of, I guess, emotional complexity of him being betrayed by, many of the people who are so instrumental to kind of like his initial kind of turn towards the good side. That's all really interesting. And obviously, in general, the film's well made. I liked it. I'm not going to give it like the kind of the super high thing, because I still think in terms of like filmmaking, it's, I think there's a point where you just have to say, well, it's literally just a straight. Oh, the other thing I want to say is it doesn't feel its length. Like, I personally actually thought for over 3 hours, I think it's almost 3.5 hours, it's not that difficult to watch, which again makes sense because it's a very nice kind of conventional structure. I'm going for a high 7. You might say that's a bit low, maybe, but I just think that filmmaking wise, it is still kind of just a bit conventional and.
I think it's an 8, which is just a really solid movie. It's a very good movie. Again, it's 3 hours 20 minutes. Doesn't really feel its length, and just tells the story of this man very well. And I'm going to quote Ebert here, who said he ranked the film number 1 on his list for 1992. So I imagine he thought it was a bit higher than this, but he did often say he ranked. He always put his number 1 movie. He made his number 1 movie choice a bit controversial to get people talking. So I don't know. But anyway, he described the film as one of the great screen biographies, celebrating the sweep of an American life that bottomed out in prison before its hero reinvented himself. And that's the thing; it's a great story. That's just his life, It's like, so how it's very difficult, I guess, to rate the movie. If you think about it, how good is the movie? Well, it just tells you his life story, and it does it in a competent way. And Denzel Washington is great. Actually, I'm going to bump it up to an 8.5 because of Denzel Washington. I think Denzel Washington, it was a perfect casting, and of course he's in the movie so much. He's literally in every fucking scene. He without getting the casting right, this would not be anywhere near as good.
Yeah.
So 8.5 out of 10 for me for Malcolm X. So Michael, now it's time to have a bit of a guess on what we think Nope is going to get at the box office. The new Jordan Peele movie. Oh, sorry, you don't sound too confident there.
Well, I mean, I'm trying to think. I mean, his films have generally been well received. So on Rotten Tomatoes, okay. Yeah,
on Rotten Tomatoes, obviously. Obviously the. What was I going to say?
I don't know.
What did you say before that?
I said and I said he usually makes good films. Or like his films, I think, have generally been well received.
Yeah, I can't. Oh yeah, I was going to talk about how Get Out and Us did well, but whatever. Who the fuck cares? Anyway, right. So Michael, have you got a rating ready in your head?
Yes.
Yes. Oh, you don't sound too confident.
Yeah, well, I'm not too confident, but we'll see.
Okay, we'll see how it goes. 3, 2, 1, 76.
86.
Oh, okay. 76 for me, 86 for you.
Yes.
So, yeah. To be honest, it's an alien invasion movie with UFOs. I don't know what really you can do with that.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just sounds. He's like Jordan Peele likes this stuff. I don't know. It just feels like it'll be a bog standard. Like, oh yeah, this is a fine movie, nothing more. Which is what 76 I think would get. But anyway, Michael, what will be you reviewing next week?
Well, next week we're continuing our look at films that deal with racial issues. Oh wait, no, we're not. We're reviewing Austin Powers.
Austin Powers,
International Man of Mystery.
International Man of Mystery, baby. Yeah, so join us for that again.
Groovy. Yeah,
we've had 2 race movies in a row: To Kill a Mockingbird, which was racism is bad, and Malcolm X, which was racism is bad. Both as complicated as each other, right? Both as complex.
Yes, that is true. Yeah, you are right. They were literally equally equivalent. Equally complex.
Yes. So join us next week for Austin Powers. Who have you been, Michael?
I've been Michael.
I've been Luke. Thanks for listening, and goodbye.
Goodbye.